My dear friends, welcome back for the second part, and we continue our story with you. But if you haven't seen the first part yet, go watch it first, and then come back to continue with us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see everything new. She wakes up later to find herself shackled with a special type of chains, imprisoned with a young girl named Naja. Naja asks her, "What's going to happen to us here?" Morgiana explains, "Most likely, we'll be turned into slaves. First, they'll display us at the slave market, and people will start bidding on us. Then we'll be sold and will work for the rest of our lives, bound in chains. If we try to escape or do anything, we'll be tortured and punished with the severest punishments." The girl hears this and starts crying. After all, she's just a little girl. Morgiana remembers when she was that age, crying and searching for her father and mother. So she hugs her and promises that she won't let her become a slave, no matter what happens. The next day, Morgiana's fever is extremely high, and she can barely breathe. The trader examines her and says, "What a pity. I won't be able to profit from you like this, but that's okay. Fortunately, the wolves haven't eaten yet." He takes her, hangs her on a rope, and releases the wolves to eat her. "What's the point of me spending money and treatment on weak slaves? That would just bring me a loss. Watch, Morgiana. This is how you use slaves." Morgiana keeps trying to break the chains with all her might, but it's useless. These chains are specially made not to break. She starts crying and says, "I promised her. I promised I would save her. I'm back to square one." At that moment, she begins to hear Goltus's voice in her head, saying, "Is this really your full strength? You were supposed to have broken free from your chains long ago. You are no longer a slave like before. Nothing can restrain you now, except the chains of your fears from the past. And those chains are easy to break with the blade of courage. Get up, Morgiana. Nothing in this world can restrain you." The trader was about to cut the rope when, at that moment, Morgiana leaps into the sky and slams down onto the ground with all her might, shattering the chains. She roars at them all, and the wolves, terrified, flee the place. She breaks the chains on her wrists and goes to free Naja. The trader gets angry and orders them to release all the animals he had kept for auction, the Marin tigers. A single scratch from their fangs is enough to tear you to pieces. But Morgiana is now free. She charges at the tigers and begins fighting them. She moves with incredible skill, taking them down one after another. Her movements are faster, stronger, and smoother than any other creature. She finishes them all, and the trader is shocked. These are the masters of the Dark Continent, the Finalis tribe. She goes to him, and the trader apologizes. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have captured you." She takes the keys from him and goes to free all the slaves. Among them, they find Naja's parents, who immediately hug her and cry upon seeing her. The surprise is that Alaaldin is also there. He's made friends with all the prisoners. Morgiana is astonished and asks him, "How could someone as strong as you be imprisoned here?" He explains that a giant rock fell on the caravan he was in, and when he woke up, he found himself here, and his flute was taken from him. As they are talking, the remaining guards arrive at the location. One of the prisoners finds the flute and hands it to Alaaldin. Outside the prison, we see the caravan leader accompanied by Layla and Sasa, along with a group of mercenaries, heading to the thieves' hideout to rescue Morgiana and free their friend. They arrive at the place and find the thieves fleeing from Ugo. The party is already over. Layla, upon seeing Ugo, reassures the others. "Don't worry, that giant is on our side." It becomes clear, my friend, that Alaaldin had met Sasa in one of the villages and helped them before he even reached Chishan to meet Ali Baba. Everywhere he goes, he makes friends. And so, my friend, they have defeated the thieves and can continue their journey to Balbad without any further problems. Alaaldin is also heading to Balbad in search of Ali Baba. They decide to travel together. He and Morgiana then celebrate their victory over the thieves. The next day, Alaaldin and Morgiana part ways with the caravan and continue their journey toward Balbad on their own. At the same time, the 3 surviving bandits were also on their way to Balbad, suffering from hunger and thirst. They arrive at a forest and find a strange man sleeping in the shade of a tree, looking very relaxed. Judging by the amount of jewelry he's wearing, he seems like an important person. The thieves' eyes gleam, and they rob him while he's asleep. Meanwhile, Alaaldin and Morgiana have also reached the forest and are shocked to find this same person in front of them naked, saying, "Good evening, don't get the wrong idea." Of course, they think he's a pervert and assume fighting stances. They calm down, and the man apologizes for what happened, explaining that he was on his way to Balbad when thieves stole everything he had. He introduces himself as Sinbad. They start talking, and Sinbad is surprised to learn they crossed that entire desert alone. As they are sitting, Morgiana suddenly smells the scent of the sea. They run towards the scent until they reach the top of a hill. They stand there, awestruck by the view, and Sinbad says, "Welcome to the kingdom of Balbad." They begin walking through the markets, and Sinbad explains that Balbad's strategic location between 2 rivers has made it one of the best tourist cities and a center for maritime trade since ancient times. The Saloja family is the ruling family of Balbad, having governed for decades. As they walk, Sinbad notices that people have started using paper currency instead of gold gold, and signs of hunger and poverty are visible on their faces. They also see graffiti calling for the overthrow of the ruling family. It becomes clear that since the death of the previous king, the country has fallen into a state of chaos and internal power struggles. They arrive at a hotel, and Sinbad tells them, "This is the best hotel in the country. I personally stay here. You can rest here as you like, and I'll cover all expenses." Aladdin remarks, "You seem very rich." Sinbad tries to enter through the gate, but the guards stop him and say, "Where do you think you're going? Get out of here, you beggar." He starts arguing with them, and his followers are watching the scene, bewildered at how he ended up in this situation. A little while later, Jafar feels sorry for him and goes to let him in. They then go to rest in their rooms, and Jafar asks him, "By the way, the person you were worrying about didn't get robbed, right?" Sinbad replies, "No, everything was stolen. Those bastards didn't leave a thing." Jafar is about to lose his mind. "Have you forgotten what those items are? When will you start acting according to your status? Have you forgotten that you are a king?" "Yes, my friend. This is Sinbad, the king of Sindria, and his items were stolen by thieves. It happens." They then go to meet the current king of Balbad and his brother, both of whom are afraid of him. Sinbad tells them, "I came here for one purpose only, to restore trade between Balbad and Sindria. Your late father and I had a trade alliance. Canceling the trade means you want to cancel the alliance between us." The younger brother, however, tells him he cannot restore trade right now because he is busy calming the internal situation in Balbad. At the same time, a servant tells Aladdin and Morgiana that ships heading to the Dark Continent are currently unavailable. She begins to explain, saying that recently a group called the Fog Troop has appeared, a band of professional thieves. 2 years ago, they managed to steal from the royal treasury, and since then, their numbers have been increasing. They use strange magical weapons that the army cannot counter, and they have become a revolutionary force against the authorities. But unlike ordinary thieves, they only rob the houses of nobles and then distribute the stolen money to the poor. In other words, honorable thieves. They steal, yes, but they have principles. At the same time, the king is telling Sinbad the same story. He says that ever since the thieves stole from the royal treasury, the country's situation has worsened, taxes have risen, and worst of all, their power has recently increased after a new leader took command. The people call him the boy genius, Ali Baba. What? Could it be a coincidence? He is about to continue, but his brother quickly silences him and says, "The Fog Troop is what halted the trade. If the matter bothers you, deal with them yourself." Sinbad replies, "Fine, I agree. My men and I will eliminate the Fog Troop. We don't need any help from your soldiers." Back with Aladdin, they have heard the same story, but Aladdin tells Morgiana that it's impossible for Ali Baba to be that boy genius. It must just be a coincidence of names. After Sinbad leaves, we see the king and his brother with a message from the Ko-Empire. They have no intention of restoring trade, no matter what. It seems there is a big political game at play. They go to have lunch, and Sinbad introduces his followers to Aladdin and Morgiana. The one with white hair is named Jafar. The huge one is named Masroor. You've probably noticed from his hair and eye color that Masroor is also from the Finalis tribe, just like Morgiana. As they are sitting, Aladdin brings out Ugo. Sinbad then realizes that he is also a magi. He says, "Well then, I'd like to introduce myself. I am the famous Sinbad." Aladdin doesn't recognize him. Sinbad asks, "How? You know the adventures of Sinbad? I am him." But Aladdin still doesn't recognize him. Sinbad starts introducing himself seriously, saying, "I am the one who has undertaken countless difficult and impossible adventures, the one who crossed the 7 seas and managed to conquer 7 dungeons. I founded my own country, became the master of 7 jinn, and the king of the 7 seas." He then asks Aladdin about being a magi. Sinbad explains, "There's only one thing I'm sure no one but a magi can do, summoning a jinn. The magi is the only one who can provide the necessary amount of mana for summoning. Every human has the ability to control the mana inside their own body, but that's it. Unlike the magi, who has no limits and can control all the mana around them without any conditions, that's why they are called beloved of the Ruh." He then asks them for help. "I want you to help me capture the thieves who are destroying the country." Jafar tries to stop him, but Sinbad says, "Aladdin is a magi, and Morgiana is from the Finalis tribe. What's stopping us? Besides, honestly, my vessels are lost, and I can't do anything on my own." They agree, but Morgiana sets conditions. If they succeed, the ships heading to the Dark Continent must resume operation, and they must also help them search for their friend, Ali Baba. They then formulate a plan. Jafar identifies 2 main locations and suspects that one of them will be the thieves' next target. The day of the plan arrives, and they decide to split into 2 teams to cover both potential locations. Morgiana, Jafar, and Aladdin cover the first location. Sinbad and Masroor cover the house of the second noble, a fat, pot-bellied man who is eating and shouting, "I can't believe the army only assigned 1 person to guard me." As they are standing there, suddenly a woman emerges from the smoke, carrying a child. Sinbad tries to help her, but she pulls out a dagger and tries to stab him. Suddenly, a large number of poor people appear around them, clearly angry and hungry. The woman says, "My son hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. If you try to stop me, I'll kill you." At that moment, the noble tosses them a piece of meat and says, "Take this, and get out of here quickly, you bunch of beggars." The woman was about to take it, but Sinbad stopped her and said, "Don't do that. All the noble's money comes from the taxes you pay. If you're not satisfied with the situation, then the right thing is to take it back with your own hands, but without killing or taking innocent lives." They actually listen to him and leave the place. Masrur comments, "What you just did could lead to a revolution." Sinbad replies, "Our agreement was only to capture the fog troop. Anything else, I'll do as I see fit." But it seems this country is already ruined. At the second team's location, a red gas suddenly begins to spread, causing hallucinations among the soldiers. Morgiana recognizes the smell as poison gas. She grabs Alaaldin and leaps away with him. At that moment, members of the fog troop appear and start killing the soldiers. Jafar realizes something like this couldn't be man-made. This must be a magical substance. Indeed, the main fog troop team appears, and as Jafar suspected, a girl is responsible for the strange substance. One of them uses a magical sword to cut a wall in two. He orders his followers to attack and steal anything they find in the house. Jafar intervenes, binding them with chains. "I'm sorry, but I have to arrest you now." He lunges at them, about to use his weapon, when suddenly black smoke gathers around him, freezing his movements. It's clear they all use magical weapons. Morgiana steps in and starts fighting them, but they use the same weapon to immobilize her as well. They are about to storm the place when Alaaldin blows into his flute and Ugo blocks their path. No one is getting through here. They prepare to fight him, but at that moment, the troop's leader intervenes and says, "Leave him to me. I'll handle this." He removes his turban, and Alaaldin is shocked the moment he sees him. The leader of the troop is Ali Baba. Finally, he is reunited with his friend. But what is he doing here? Why is he leading a group of thieves? He greets Alaaldin and asks him to cancel the summoning because it's scaring his friends. Jafar urges Alaaldin not to listen, but Alaaldin is bewildered. He cancels the transformation and says, "I came here to see you, Ali Baba. I have so much to tell you. Come on, let's continue our adventure." But Ali Baba walks past him and says, "I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill my promise to you." He leaves him and continues on his way. At that moment, guards arrive, and his followers urge him to leave quickly. Ali Baba draws his dagger and calls upon the Jinn of strife and discipline. He uses Amon's power, and a fiery spell engulfs the entire area. They then escape. In the morning, Sinbad arrives at the scene and learns that the leader of the fog troop is a dungeon capturer and is the very person Alaaldin was searching for. An unexpected surprise indeed. Back at the fog troop's hideout, we see them welcoming new members, who, coincidentally, are the 3 sisters who stole Sinbad's vessels. Ali Baba tells them, "Listen to me carefully. We are honorable thieves. Everything we do is for the sake of the poor in the slums. If anyone tries to steal for themselves, they will pay with their lives." The meeting ends, and someone asks Ali Baba why he started accepting people they know nothing about. "By the way, my friend, this person is named Kasim. He is Ali Baba's childhood friend and the vice leader. We'll learn their story shortly." A group of children comes to them, saying they ate 2 meals today because of the thefts from the nobles. Kasim tells Ali Baba, "Remember when we were like them, when we were little? You have to save these children, no matter what. Please, don't let their end be the same as Mariam's." Ali Baba then returns to his room, thinking about what happened with Alaaldin. He tries to sleep, but suddenly finds Morgiana right in front of his face, whispering, "Don't make a sound, or I'll hurt you." They calm down, and we learn that Morgiana found the hideout by tracking his scent. She's sharper than any dog. She tells him, "You have to explain everything to Alaaldin. You don't know what he went through to find you." Ali Baba replies, "So what? This is my business." This answer doesn't please her at all. She says, "In that case, I'll make you meet him yourself." She picks him up by force and dashes off to the hotel. Back with Sinbad, Jafar informs him that Balbad's economy is facing a real crisis. And the reason is this: the paper currency issued by the Ko Empire. Recently, the Ku Empire has started using military force to intimidate other nations and force them to use this currency as well. It seems the king of Balbad has also fallen for this trick. Not only that, but Jafar has learned that the king is going to marry one of the princesses of the Koi Empire. Sinbad is annoyed. That pig didn't tell me about this. Anyway, the best thing now is to be cautious before any step and to communicate with our kingdom's forces immediately, especially since your vessels aren't with you right now. Meanwhile, Alaaldin is feeling dejected because of what happened during the confrontation with Ali Baba. He no longer knows what he's supposed to do. Suddenly, Morgiana comes in through the window and practically throws Ali Baba at him. They sit and talk, neither knowing what to say to the other. Alaaldin breaks the silence. "I was planning to capture the fog troop, but I didn't know you had joined them. I'm sure you must have a reason for doing this. I want to know what that reason is." Ali Baba says, "Before I explain, I need to tell you my story with Kasim. Kasim is my childhood friend. He's the true leader of the fog troop. We go back in time to the slums. Like any two kids, they always played together and spent their days in the streets. Yes, they often fought, but they were the best of friends. Despite the harsh life in the slums, Ali Baba had a loving mother, and they lived a happy life. Unlike Qasim, whose father was a drunkard who constantly beat him, and his sister, Mariam, whom Qasim considered the most precious thing in his life, one day, Qasim's father suddenly disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Since they were in the slums, such a thing wasn't unusual. Ali Baba's mother decided to adopt them, and they all lived together as one family. Those were fun days, and they lived happily together. But, unfortunately, this situation didn't last long. After a while, Ali Baba's mother died from illness. Ali Baba and Mariam could do nothing but cry over her. Qasim, however, decided that from then on, he would be the one responsible for protecting them. The three of them worked at every possible job just to survive. But after a while, Qasim befriended some bad people and turned to thievery. Ali Baba tried to stop him and offered to help, but Qasim refused, saying, "You can't dirty your hands with this. You're not like me. I'll end up a drunkard like my father anyway, but you're different." One day, the king of Balbad came to the slums and told Ali Baba, "You are my son. From now on, you will come live with me in the palace. Your mother, Anis, worked in the royal palace, and I loved her from the first moment I saw her. Pack your things, you're coming with me." Qasim said, "I knew it all along. How could someone like you live in this trash? We were different from the start. Take your things and get out of here." Ali Baba eventually took his things and went to the palace. From that moment, his whole life changed. He had servants taking care of him, people teaching him how to speak, eat, and even walk properly. This explains his mastery of the royal dueling style, as we saw in his fight with the governor. 3 years passed. One day, Ali Baba missed his memories of the slums, so he decided to sneak out of the royal palace and go there. But the shock? He found no trace of anyone. The government had renovated and cleaned the streets. He was about to leave when he was surprised to find Qasim in front of him. After 3 years apart, they were finally able to celebrate their reunion. Ali Baba asked about Mariam and the others. Qasim told him everyone was fine, but there was no longer anything called the slums. The government had evicted them under the pretext of land reclamation. They sat and talked about everything that had happened. Qasim asked, "Oh right, didn't you also say you were confined to the palace? So how did you get here?" Ali Baba replied, "Shame on you. There are tunnels that no one knows about except me. And of course, my friend, you've probably guessed the rest." They finished their celebration, and Ali Baba headed back to the palace. But Qasim had sent someone to follow him. A few days later, the king summoned Ali Baba and told him, "I don't have much time left. Your brother, Aminard, is lazy and will be easy to control. That's why I want you to be the king after me, Ali Baba. This country is a trust in your hands. I have no one else to rely on." Ali Baba promised him, "Don't worry, I will fulfill your wish." As they were talking, they suddenly heard a noise outside. Ali Baba went to check and was shocked by what he saw. Qasim had betrayed him. He had sent someone to follow Ali Baba to learn the location of the tunnels. Thus, he and his followers were able to sneak into the palace and steal from the royal treasury. One of his followers then knocked Ali Baba unconscious. Qasim and his men took everything in the treasury, set the palace on fire, and fled. Yes, my friend, the reason for the theft of the royal treasury and the death of the king was Ali Baba. It was all because of his naivety. After he regained consciousness and learned the king had died, he decided to take his things and flee Balbad. He arrived in Chishan and worked there, hoping for the day he could open a dungeon and gain power, until he met Aladdin and the rest, as we know. Sinbad, who had been eavesdropping on them, had heard everything. He concluded that Ali Baba is the third prince of the kingdom of Balbad. Morgiana then asked the question on all our minds, "What made you join the fog troop, especially after knowing that Qasim betrayed you?" Ali Baba began to explain. After conquering the dungeon, he decided to take the path of redemption and return to Balbad to make amends for his mistake. But when he returned, he found everything had changed. The country's situation had deteriorated after the late king's death, and hunger and poverty were widespread among the population. He arrived at the port and found the fog troop setting ships on fire, chaos reigning everywhere. At that moment, he met Qasim again. At first, he thought Qasim was behind everything happening, but after talking to him, he discovered he was wrong. The real cause of everything was the ruling family. Qasim took him to a place and showed him a grave, saying, "This is Mariam's grave. A year after you left for the palace, a terrible plague spread through the slums. Not only did the government ignore us, but they also evicted us and tried to cover up the issue. We had no doctors, no medicine, we couldn't even find food. Amidst all this, Mariam was coughing up blood, writhing in pain, and I could do nothing for her. Yes, my friend, the death of his sister Mariam, whom he loved more than anything, was what turned him into what he is now." Ali Baba asked him, "Why didn't you tell me from the beginning?" Qasim replied, "What was I supposed to tell you? That the ruling family killed everyone? After the plague ended, the government burned the place down, considering it a kind of purification. It was then that I realized that in their eyes, we were nothing but trash. That's why I founded the Fog Troop to fight and demand our rights. Ali Baba said, even so, what you're doing won't get you anywhere. In their eyes, you're just thieves, nothing more. At that moment, an idea came to Kasim. I've got it. Join us, Ali Baba. You can be the leader. If an prince is on our side, then we won't just be criminals in their eyes anymore. We return to the present. Ali Baba tells them, I know he betrayed me, but after talking to him, I was sure he's still the same Kasim I know. That's why I joined the Fog Troop. The first decision I made was to distribute the stolen goods among the people to gain their support. As soon as the time is right, I'll reveal my identity, negotiate with my brother the king, and demand that he reforms the country's situation. Aladdin remembered what happened with the Koga tribe and asked, what will you do if your plan fails? If anger takes over you, you might end up igniting a civil war, Ali Baba replied. Yes, this method isn't the most correct, but corruption is widespread, and someone has to fix the situation. What exactly is supposed to happen? I no longer know what I should do. That's why I didn't want to meet you. I didn't want you to see me like this. Aladdin snapped him out of it. Calm down, Ali Baba. I'll help you find a solution. Don't forget, we also have Ugo and Morgiana. If we all work together, we're sure to find a solution. But at that moment, the Fog Troop burst into the place and started attacking those present. Ali Baba asked, what are you doing here? Besides, I didn't know this hotel was one of our targets. Kasim said, you idiot. If we don't capture them, they'll capture us. We received new information. Sinbad, the king of Sindria, is in this hotel. Meanwhile, Sinbad was confronted by a group from the Fog Troop. They attacked, but Masrur stood in their way, and Jafar disarmed them. Sinbad started fighting their leader, but the latter used a magical tool and cut his sword in two. Sinbad dodged and delivered a strange blow to his stomach, knocking him unconscious. Back with Aladdin, Kasim grabbed Ali Baba and said, we have to get out of here fast. But Morgiana wasn't about to let them go. They reached the rooftop and found the rest of the gang waiting for them. At that moment, the ground beneath them shattered, and Sinbad and his followers made their entrance. No one is leaving here, Kasim ordered. Finish them off. Masrur then stepped forward, and you couldn't see anything but a blur. In one movement, he took out half of them in the blink of an eye. Everyone was stunned by his power. Kasim realized this was Sinbad and started using the same tool we saw earlier, managing to immobilize him. But against whom? Sinbad broke the spell with ease and said, these weak tools have no effect on me. The title, King of the Seven Seas, wasn't earned for nothing. Masrur then captured him and took his weapon. Sinbad looked at Ali Baba and said, how about we end this, leader to leader? I don't mind if you use your vessel's power. What do you say? Ali Baba was nervous. Impossible. This is Sinbad, the legendary dungeon capturer. Aladdin, watching all this, decided to let Sinbad handle it. Sinbad continued, you can run if you want. Either way, the Fog Troop will be finished. But your destiny is different from theirs. They are just people from the slums. No matter how hard you try to pretend you're one of them, it will never change the fact that you are a prince. Ali Baba got angry. What do you know about us? You know nothing about the suffering we've been through. He began to call upon Aman, and the whole place became engulfed in flames. Even if you're Sinbad, I will defeat you here. They started exchanging sword strikes, with Sinbad analyzing his movements and his use of the jinn. Ali Baba managed to knock his sword away, but Sinbad grabbed him by the wrist and, with a strange technique, nullified his transformation and defeated him. It seems you have no idea how to use a jinn. Kasim shouted, what brought you here? If you hadn't shown up, no one could have stood in our way. Sinbad replied, you never could have done all this without help from someone in the government. Don't fool yourself, boy. You've gotten yourself and everyone around you caught up in a battle you can't win. But even with your weakness, if you still want to continue, there's only one path left, for me to help you. In other words, I want to join the Fog Troop. Everyone was shocked. Jafar exclaimed, have you lost your mind? Have you forgotten our goal was to capture them? That was our agreement with the king to restore trade, Sinbad said. But I want to help them. Besides, Jafar, don't you have a heart? Don't you see the tragedies happening in this country? Hasn't any of this moved your heart? And suddenly, Jafar became the bad guy in the story. At that moment, Aladdin understood the reason for his fame. Sinbad truly is an interesting person. Ali Baba said, I'm sorry, but you won't fool me that easily. Sinbad replied, what if I told you I genuinely want to save the people of this country? Would you believe me? Anyway, there's another reason you've probably noticed. Lately, many disturbances have been appearing around the world. Wars are erupting easily. Poverty and discrimination are steadily increasing. The whole world is descending into chaos. As the king of Sindria, I'm worried about what's happening. That's why I want to resolve the internal conflicts here in Balbad. Kasim intervened. Don't let him fool you. Why would a king like him want to join us? People like him don't care if we die, or if we have nothing to eat. All he cares about is that his comfortable life isn't affected. Jafar transformed and shouted, shut up, boy! A thief like you knows nothing about the sacrifices he has made. He was about to kill him, but Sinbad stopped him at the last moment. Ali Baba said, fine, I agree, but don't hurt any of us. They calmed down, and Sinbad said, let's get straight to the point. I want you to come with me to the palace tomorrow, Ali Baba. Didn't you say you'd reveal your identity when the time was right? I don't think there's a better time than now. You've gained the people's support as the leader of the Fog Troop, and now, noticing the resemblance, you are truly the real Prince of Balbad. This explains why you've always felt a great responsibility towards it. Aladdin also encouraged him. You're a hero, Ali Baba. I'm sure you'll succeed. The next day, an announcement was published, stating that Ali Baba would negotiate with the king and try to reach a solution regarding the country's situation. It was signed from the leader of the Fog Troop, the boy genius, and the third Prince of Balbad, Ali Baba Saluja. The news spread among the citizens. The fact that the boy genius, Ali Baba, was the third prince caused them to gather around the palace to support him. Sinbad told him, these numbers are the biggest proof of their despair with the current king and the hope they have placed in you. They went to meet the king. Sinbad said, I don't like to interfere in your country's affairs, but try to reach a solution. Ali Baba began to speak. You must know that I was the cause of the robbery that happened 2 years ago. But I want you to think about the reason that forced the Fog Troop to resort to theft, and also the reason that made all the citizens outside the palace gather in support. The people are suffering and dying of hunger. So I want you to promise me now that you will do everything you can to protect your people from death. If you do that, I promise you right here and now that I will disband the Fog Troop. The king replied coldly, are you finished? Throw him out. How dare a lowly commoner speak to me like this? I am an extension of the Saluja dynasty. I never considered you a brother. If it weren't for the king of Sindria, I would have ordered them to cut off your head. Isn't it enough that there are insects gathered outside? Ali Baba got angry and said, someone who despises his people has no right to be their king. At that moment, their conversation was interrupted by a strange man who introduced himself as the treasurer. The king said to him, come in, I've been waiting for you. Outside the palace, we see the dark magi moving through the crowds towards the palace. Aladdin senses something strange about him. His flute also reacts to him, and his appearance is not reassuring. Inside the palace, the suspicious treasurer introduces himself as the financial advisor to the nation of Balbad. Sinbad doesn't trust him and asks, have we met before? The treasurer replies, no, this is the first time. At that moment, the Magi arrives, and Sinbad recognizes him immediately. Sinbad asks, what are you doing here? The Magi, whose name is Judar, replies, didn't I tell you? I'm currently working with the Ko Empire. I came here to finish a few things. He goes to greet the treasurer, and Sinbad realizes then that the treasurer is also with the Ku Empire. Aminard asks Sinbad to leave now, but Sinbad says, we haven't reached a solution yet. Aminard replies, if you mean restoring trade, unfortunately, that's now impossible. I've made the Ku Empire responsible for managing trade affairs in Balbad. I can't do anything without their approval. Sinbad is shocked by his stupidity. The treasurer adds, if you'd like to deal with us and improve your country's economy too, that's no problem. Amidst all this, Ali Baba keeps shouting, begging Aminard to promise to fix the country's situation. But the pig doesn't care and says he doesn't understand the language of insects. And so the negotiations ended with the worst possible outcome. They return to the hideout, where everyone is anxious, waiting to hear the result. Ali Baba sits in his room, dejected, and tells them, Aminard didn't even speak to me. He only spoke to Sinbad. In the end, I couldn't do anything. Soon after, Jafar enters and asks Ali Baba to come with them to announce the results to the people. He goes to stand next to Sinbad. Sinbad begins to speak, telling them, unfortunately, the negotiations have failed. Now, you have no choice but to fight. The people are about to lose hope, but Sinbad encourages them, why be sad? Today, for the first time, you've decided to face injustice directly, instead of hiding behind the fog. Never forget the true motive behind your struggle. And I, Sinbad, promise you that I will do everything I can to help you. I will not give up, no matter what happens. And even if your country expels you, my country will welcome you. This is the very reason I built Sindria. Of course, he finishes his speech, and all the people cheer for him, forgetting about Ali Baba, who is, after all, the prince. At that moment, Aladdin's flute suddenly begins to react, and Judar appears above them, descending. Sinbad asks him, what brings you here? Did the king send you, or the Ko Empire? Judar replies, neither, actually. Honestly, I don't care about either of them. The only thing that interests me is war. You don't know how many countless soldiers the Ku Empire has, and 5 dungeon capturers. They've even established a special division for dungeon capturers. But I still hold my opinion. Join me, Sinbad, and no one will be able to stand against us. Suddenly, Judar senses Aladdin and asks, who's that boy? The Rook are gathered around him strangely. Sinbad tells him, he's a magi, just like you. Judar is shocked. That little one is a magi? Magi are supposed to be strong. Sinbad replies, if he weren't a magi, you wouldn't have noticed him. Judar goes to greet him, saying, nice to meet you, fellow magi. He pretends to shake his hand, but punches him in the face. What's this? Why are you so weak? You're not planning to join this weakling, are you? Tell me, who are the kings you've nominated? Aladdin doesn't understand what he means. Judar says, fine. I'll find them myself. He glances at everyone present and identifies Ali Baba. What's with this loser? Aren't you the one Amanard was mocking this morning? I saw you crying while he ignored you. If I were you, I would have buried myself. Aladdin defends him, saying, Ali Baba is brave. He knew the king wouldn't like what he had to say, yet he still requested a meeting and negotiated with him. Not just anyone could do that, Judar says. It seems you've pinned your hopes on him. As for me, I don't see anything in him. He takes out his magical rod and blasts him away. See how weak he is? Aladdin gets angry and prepares to fight him. I had a strange feeling before, but now I'm sure. This person is my enemy, and I must stand against him. Sinbad tries to stop them, but Judar tells him, stay out of this. This is a fight between magi. Ordinary humans shouldn't interfere, especially since your vessels aren't with you right now. Masrur attacks him, but his kicks can't penetrate his barrier. Judar taunts, it's impossible without the power of the vessels. Let's have some fun. He also starts gathering the rook and attacks everyone around him. Strangely, Aladdin is unaffected and reflects the attack back. Judar realizes, I understand. Let's stop this nonsense. Since we're both magi, the rook protect us. We'll just keep nullifying each other's attacks. In that case, let's fight using magic. Aladdin, as usual, doesn't understand. Judar says, let me teach you. Mana is the raw energy we take from the rook. If we use it the way we just did, it's useless. But if you learn to control the mana, this is what results. One of the forms of magic, lightning magic. He attacks Aladdin with it, forcing Aladdin to summon Hugo. Judar is surprised and says, I like that. Only magi can manifest a jinn. I acknowledge you now, magi, but don't get too happy. The real battle is just beginning. He starts gathering the fog in the city, forming giant ice crystals with it. What do you think of my specialty? Ice magic. He shatters them into countless crystals and attacks everyone present. Aladdin doesn't know who to protect. They are hit with another barrage of attacks, but at that moment, Hugo leaps into the air and delivers a blow that slams Judar into the ground. This is what a fight between magi looks like. But the matter won't end so easily, Judar says. I like that, but you haven't seen anything yet. He had hidden a volley of crystals in the sky and rains them down on Aladdin. Hugo sacrifices himself, taking all the hits meant for Aladdin. The crystals pierce his body, and everyone is shocked. Aladdin worries about him and tries to channel him energy, but his injuries are very severe. Judar says, honestly, that jinn is strong, but it's only a matter of time before the mana leaks from his wounds. Aladdin asks him, why? Why are you doing all this? Why are you attacking us? Judar replies, why? Oh, right. Why are we fighting? Anyway, since you're a magi, you must understand me. I have immense power and don't know how to use it. So every day, I'm just bored, finding nothing to do. But today, I finally managed to have some fun. I finally got rid of that feeling of boredom. So come on, fight me. Let's enjoy this more. He's literally insane. At that moment, Hugo starts acting strangely. Aladdin tells him to return to the flute, but Hugo refuses and puts him down. Aladdin doesn't understand why he refuses to return. How is he even still moving when Aladdin is no longer supplying him with energy? Judar says, an opportunity like this might not come again. Let's enjoy this more. He attacks with lightning magic, but Morgiana quickly saves Aladdin. Ali Baba also attacks him, and, with the power of his vessel, manages to pierce his barrier and scratch him. Judar gets angry, uses his power, and blasts him away. He tells them, no one interferes. I'm going to enjoy myself with this magi. Then, I'll finish him off. At that moment, a swift attack from Hugo catches him off guard. Before he can recover, Hugo is upon him and slams him into the ground. Judar can't comprehend it. What's wrong with this jinn? Before he can react, Hugo is right in his face. Hugo has literally gone berserk. Judar is terrified and asks, what exactly did you do? He shouldn't be receiving any energy from you by now. That means someone else is powering him now. You are not the master of this jinn. Judar then uses all his power and attacks with a massive barrage. Hugo shields Aladdin, and Judar seizes the opportunity to pierce through his body. I am the victor. But then, the surprise? Hugo crushes him with all his might, shattering his barrier, literally squashing him like a bug between his hands. To everyone's shock, Judar falls to the ground, unconscious and covered in injuries. This is Hugo's power. Sinbad is stunned by his strength. At that moment, Hugo begins to gather magical energy, seemingly intent on killing him. Sinbad realizes what's happening and shouts for everyone to run away quickly. Hugo unleashes his attack, and the entire place is destroyed by the sheer force of the energy. If not for Sinbad's warning, they all would have been hurt. Ali Baba asks, what happened to Hugo? Aladdin replies, I don't know. I've never seen him like this. But unfortunately, good things never last. A strange group arrives at the scene and manages to save Judar at the very last moment. One of them says, if we had been a second later, he would have died. You need to treat him quickly. His life is very important to us. Sinbad recognizes from their emblem that they are from the Ku Empire. Their intervention also shows they are skilled in using magical tools. But to what degree? Ugo is determined to kill Judar and begins gathering his energy. The girl among them says, "So this is what reduced Judar to this state. Leave him to me. I'll handle him." She removes her hairpin and begins to call upon the spirit of separation and solitude, asking it to reside within her body and transform her into a great warrior. The girl is a dungeon capturer. She forms a water shield. Ugo attacks her, starting to evaporate her shield with his heat. The girl gets angry, uses her power, and arms herself with a giant sword. Ugo charges his energy and attacks her, but she dashes towards him and, in a shocking scene, literally pierces through him. Oh my god! Alaaldin is shocked as Ugo's body disappears and returns to the flute. Literally, my friend, the events have become devastating. So, what awaits Alaaldin and his friends? Who is this group? How can they overcome them? Is Ugo dead, just like that? And what was the reason that made him go berserk like this? All this, and more, we will find out in the next part of Alaaldin's story. And that's it. This is the end of our video. If you liked the video, please don't forget your like, and write to us in the comments if you enjoyed the story, so we can continue it for you as soon as possible. See you in a new video, and that's it. Goodbye.